Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is a fraud. Now, let's talk about why that is. It's your favorite cooked fungus, Toasted Mushroom here, with another theory. So let's get right on in. In the world of Dragon Ball, there are multiple power-ups that characters use throughout the series, none more than the Saiyans. We see Ozaru, the Great Ape, Kaioken, Ultra Instinct, the most iconic anime transformation, Super Saiyan. But today, we're talking about a power that comes in later in the series, one that takes two people to complete. Of course, I'm talking about fusion. Now, fusion is not unique to Saiyans, or even organic life forms, as there are many different types throughout the series. I have a video up already explaining the multiple android fusions that you can check out if you'd like. We've been made aware of fusion early on in the series, with the Namekian fusion. Later, we see the Potara fusion, and even later than that, we see what are called EX fusions. And now, in Dragon Ball Daima, we see the possibility of another fusion with the Medibug fusion. However, I wanted to talk to you about the one that in the original series made us aware of fusion again, the Metamoran fusion. Specifically, the Metamoran fusion of Goku and Vegeta. So, Goku and Vegeta have two canonical fusions that they are a part of, each with their own method of fusion. Vegito, the demon born in heaven, is the fusion of Goku and Vegeta using the Potara earrings of the Kais. And Gogeta, the angel born in hell, is the fusion of Goku and Vegeta that uses the Metamoran fusion dance. The purpose of said fusions is to combine the skill and power of each fighter to create a new fighter that is so much more powerful than the original two. Throughout the entire series, not including video games or Dragon Ball Heroes, there have been a total of 3 Gogeta appearances and 2 Vegito appearances. For Gogeta, during the events of the Fusion Reborn movie, taking place in the Buu arc, he fights Janemba, a demon composed of thousands of years of spiritual corruption cleansed out of the dead souls. During the events of the Shadow Dragon arc, in Dragon Ball GT, he fights Omega Shenron, a manifestation of negative energy built up from overuse of the Dragon Balls. And during Dragon Ball Super, during the Broly arc, we see him go against the legendary mutant Saiyan and title character Broly. As for Vegito, we see him go against Buuhan, a name given to Super Buu by the fans after he absorbs Gohan during the Buu arc. Super Buu, of course, being a demon created by a wizard to destroy the universe, only now being able to utilize his full power. And we see Vegito, during Dragon Ball Super, fight against Merge Zamasu, a fusion of 2 versions of the Kai Zamasu. It's a long story, probably too long to explain here. Now, when I say that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is a fraud, there's a very glaring reason that I'm looking at. I'm not talking about his looks, I'm not talking about the power scaling, because he, like Gogeta, is always the strongest character in the verse at the time. I'm saying that the main purpose of the video is to describe Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and how his personality is completely wrong. So let's take a look at the different times we see these fighters in action. Starting with Vegito, we see in Vegito's first appearance in his fight against Buuhan, that during the fight, he has a cocky attitude almost the entire time, almost never dropping his cocky smile. He constantly mocks Buu, his look, and his power. There's a lot of playing with his food, so to speak. The entire time he makes Buu, the strongest character we've seen up until this point, look weaker than anyone else. We find out later that this is in order to get absorbed by Buu, so that he can free his friends and family that have already been absorbed. During Vegito's second appearance, where he is matched up against Merge Zamasu, we see Vegito mock the all-powerful god the entire battle. It honestly gives some Saiyan Saga Goku vs. Vegeta vibes, in terms of ideologies. Vegito is constantly stating that mortals are not as weak as they look, and can even rival the strength of gods, while at the same time continuing to make Zamasu look like a joke who can't fight. From these 2 instances of Vegito fighting and interacting with enemies, we can see a couple of constant traits. He's not afraid to insult his opponent as he jokes around quite a bit while fighting them. He also is usually determined to have a specific goal completed and will do whatever he can to accomplish it. It's kind of a mixture of Goku's mischievous personality, Vegeta's cocky personality, and their problem-solving skills. So now, let's compare that to Gogeta and two of his appearances. During his first appearance, Gogeta faces off against Janemba toward the end of the movie. Gogeta says very few things, almost exclusively engaging in combat with Janemba. Many people point out that this is because of the shorter fusion time of 30 minutes. He needs to be more to the point and deliberate of his usage of this power. He basically shows up in the movie for a total of around 5 minutes, beats the shit out of Janemba, and then dips. In his latest appearance during Dragon Ball Super Broly, he does a lot of the same things. Most of his interactions while fighting Broly involve combat. He does have more lines in this movie and is able to have more of a personality, namely talking about his name and what it should be. But when it comes down to the action, he focuses on that rather than talking. He also has a little more fun during this fight, but there's a level of respect that he has for his opponent. It can also be because he has the opportunity to go all out for once. Through these interactions, we can see Gogeta is actually quite humble in his approach to fighting. He almost always comments about the person he's fighting against being strong enough to bring him out. He is also more action-oriented, seeming to choose to fight rather than exchange words with his opponent. He may also be slightly more rash at times, as he was ready to kill Broly while knowing that Broly was not evil. Okay, so we do have a baseline for each fighter. Gogeta seems to be more action-oriented, less goal-oriented, but remains humble and aware of his opponent's strength. Vegeta is cocky and disrespectful, but that is usually to accomplish a specific goal. With all that being said, I'm sure you've noticed that there's one appearance that I left out. The third Gogeta appearance, second canonically in real life, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and his fight against Omega Shenron. Well, let's take a look at some things that happened during this fight.
Not really. Actually, your little treatment took care of a crick in my neck that's been bothering me. Hey, Dragon, I hope this isn't too much to ask, but could you do my backside now? I cracked myself up.
Now, did you notice anything while you were watching? What's Gogeta doing during these scenes? I noticed that during the battle, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is continually taunting Omega Shenron, playing practical jokes like with the fake Kamehameha, all with the goal in mind to redirect the negative energy that Omega Shenron is emitting. We also see similar themes to the Zamasu fight, with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta demeaning the Shadow Dragon. Ask yourself, do these traits resemble the same actions that Gogeta would take in either of his other two appearances? Instead, his actions seem more in line with the other two appearances of Vegito. Both times we see that they are goal-oriented, Vegito with freeing his family from Buu, and Gogeta from dispelling the planet's negative energy. We see that both times they are insulting to their opponents and their opponent's strength. We also see the disregard for any type of time limit during the fight as well. During this fight, if Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was replaced by Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, there would be no difference, aside from visuals. So, as I was coming to the realization of this, I wondered, since we get this inconsistency in the anime, is it like that during the appearances in the video games as well? Since the video games are a large part of why the fan base is such a fan of the fusions. During their appearances in Dragon Ball Raging Blast, Gogeta seems more nuanced in his approach. He often talks more about his own strength in relation to those who he's fighting. I think this is very much in like the personality that he has in most of his appearances, that is considering if they weren't so short. Vegito's personality seems very close to the same as his anime counterpart as well, complete with taunting and wanting to show that everyone else's best move is not enough. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in Dragon Ball Ultimate Tenkaichi is a lot closer to his non-Super Saiyan 4 appearances, as there's a lot more focus on being humble and straight to the point, and giving props to his opponents for bringing out this level of strength. In Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Vegito is almost a one-to-one creation of his appearances in the anime. He has his cocky nature and his penchant for insulting the people he's fighting. Some of Gogeta's lines are unfortunately reused from Vegito, and I think that's a misstep, as it mischaracterizes him in a way that we don't see elsewhere. There are some other lines that he has which are closer to what we have described as Gogeta's actual personality as well, though. Now, I wrote 98% of this script before Sparking Zero came out, but with it coming out, I decided to see if that would be the case for the various fusions as well. It's interesting because there are a couple of lines of dialogue that Gogeta Super has that I would actually switch with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. For the first time, it seems that Gogeta from Dragon Ball Super has a personality a bit different than what we would see normally. However, this could be because it seems like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta has less thought and effort put into him. His dialogues and interactions seem a little less put together in comparison to the other fusions. Surprisingly, between the two, there wasn't much that was shared when it came to unique dialogue interactions, which is nice. I would say Vegito stays about where you would expect him to as well. So, the state of these characters is weird to say the least. Maybe I'm looking way too much into the different fusions that people consider not to be that different anyway. But I think they have enough distinctions in their personality that they aren't the same. I also think that the people who are writing for the characters don't always understand how they are supposed to react and respond. With all that being said, it's impressive that so many years later, the Broly version of Gogeta was more like the Fusion Reborn counterpart that they had before, rather than his Super Saiyan 4 counterpart, especially since that was a closer time gap. I like these two fusions having different personalities and ideals. It helps the audience develop more of a favorite, but it also helps the story deal with different themes. With Gogeta, we see more urgency, less talking, and a lot more fighting. A last resort that the characters need to utilize in order to beat the enemy. With Vegito, we see a deconstruction of the enemy. Usually the fight breaks down the ideals of Vegito's opponents, a tool to reach a goal that also involves an opponent so strong the other characters cannot help. Now, I want to see what you guys think in the comments. Does what I'm saying make sense? Am I going insane from constantly rewatching Dragon Ball over and over? Do you like that they have distinct personalities? Would Vegito be able to beat Janemba, and Gogeta be able to defeat Super Buu? Let me know, we can talk about it in the comments. That's all for the video, everyone. I appreciate you staying until the very end and listening to my rambles. If you like this video, why not give it a like? And subscribe if you want to, as it really helps us grow. I wanted to thank everyone for their support that I've gotten so far. I've been really enjoying the engagement I've been seeing. Thank you so much for watching. And I wanted you to know, since both Gogeta and Vegito know, that if you're not toasted with toasted mushroom, you're just baked.